During the First World War, both the British and the French had secretly agreed on dividing the Ottomans' lost territories. The agreement was known as the Sykes-Picot Agreement of 1916. Soon after the agreement, the Kurdish people realized that they have an opportunity to establish their own independent nation-state, just like the other Arab states in the region. However, the British refused to grant the Kurds an independent state and integrated the Kurdish region and southern Iraq into one country. This was because the British needed to protect their own interests in the region. For example, the discovery of oil in Kurdistan meant that the British could not afford to lose their grip over the region, and they needed to control Mosul in order to protect against Turkish intervention in the region. At the beginning of the British invasion of Iraq during World War I, Sheikh Mahmud Barzanji, who was an influential Kurdish tribal leader, entered into a relationship with the British. After World War I, Sheikh Mahmud invited the British to Suleimania and sent a letter stating that he would surrender the city to the British in the condition that he became the governor. This request was supported by 40 Kurdish tribes. The British were pleased by the letter, and Sheikh Mahmud was appointed governor of Kirkuk in December 1918. After being appointed governor, Sheikh Mahmud attempted to expand his dominance and started to develop policies to procure acceptance of his dominance over the wider Kurdish region. To achieve this expansion of dominance, Sheikh Mahmud removed all Turkish and Arab officers in the region and replaced them with Kurdish officers. Furthermore, he announced Kurdish as the official language and formed his own Kurdish army. However, the British did not approve of such autonomy and wanted him to be a puppet. The British did not want to allow him to be recognized as a leader in the international arena. Soon tensions began to increase between Sheikh Mahmud and the British. Sheikh Mahmud wanted to send a delegation of 2 Kurds to the Paris Peace Conference, where the new borders would be designed after the end of the First World War. However, the British did not allow this to happen, and they arrested his representatives. The British were constantly trying to limit his expansion and activities. Eventually, these tensions forced Sheikh Mahmud Barzanji to rebel. On 23rd of May 1919, Sheikh Mahmud raised the Kurdish flag instead of the British one. Furthermore, Sheikh Mahmud confiscated the British treasury, imprisoned the British officers serving in Suleimania, destroyed the telegraph lines, and broke off ties with the British. The rebellion had begun. Tribal fighters from both Iran and Iraq quickly allied themselves with Sheikh Mahmud, as he became more successful in opposing British rule. This posed a serious problem for the British. However, the British were quick to respond and sent soldiers to suppress the rebellion. On 18th June 1919, Sheikh Mahmud was captured with the help of the Talabani and Pindar Kurdish tribes. Sheikh Mahmud was initially sentenced to death. However, for British interests, he was not executed and was instead exiled to India. However, this was only the beginning of the conflict in Kurdistan against the British. Soon after the exile of Sheikh Mahmud, the Goyan tribe in the northern part of Iraq and most of the Kurdish tribal leaders in the southern parts of Turkey rebelled against the British. The situation in Kurdistan had become so chaotic that in order to suppress these rebellions, the British brought back Sheikh Mahmud Barzanji from exile. Many British officials disagreed with this decision. Even Winston Churchill strongly disagreed. However, Sir Percy Cox carried out the decision. Sheikh Mahmud Barzanji was back in Suleimania. However, this time the British had to ensure that Sheikh Mahmud's influence was limited. Therefore, they tried to install the Kurdish leader known as Sayyid Taha as their puppet ruler of South Kurdistan. However, this was never implemented, as Sheikh Mahmud Barzanji was received with a hero's welcome upon his return to Suleimania. A few days after his arrival in Suleimania, Sheikh Mahmud requested that the independence of southern Kurdistan be recognized. According to his demands, all territories on which the Kurds lived in Iraq should be annexed to this independent state, and a joint commission must be established to determine the borders of this state and the state of Iraq. His last demand was that he himself should be acclaimed as king. However, the British did not consider this request appropriate and tried to neutralize the growing rebellion movement using bombings. Sheikh Mahmud refused to surrender and continued the rebellion. He stated that the British intention was not to help the Kurdish people, but was to secure British interests in the region. Sheikh Mahmud's forces continued engaging in hit-and-run attacks, killing British military officers and inciting other Kurdish tribes to rebel against the British. The success of these Kurdish anti-British revolts forced the British to recognize Kurdish autonomy in 1923. However, after the British intensified their bombing campaign of Kurdistan, they were able to crush the rebellion. Once these uprisings were subdued, the British signed over Iraq to King Faisal and a new Arab-led government. The Kingdom of Kürdistan fell in 1925 and became part of the Kingdom of Iraq.